no, no, on a truck and driving on the highway, and all of a sudden, the wheel truck going to this grader, which was a pothole. It's really very nice.
Hey, Ms. Prenga, we are live. We are streaming. You may proceed with the public hearing.
Good morning, everyone. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals public review session for March 12, 2024. Please note, no public testimony is permitted during the review session. Just a note for our hearing, Commissioner Sheta will be attending remotely. We will begin with the zoning calendar, the BZ calendar. Continued hearings. Item number 18, calendar number 2023-23BZ, 295 Exeter Street, Brooklyn.
Oh, sorry. Did you want to discuss the second call first?
Yeah.
Because we're going to do it
Yes.
first.
Yes, that's right. It's up to the chair.
I'm so
But
sorry, Ms. Prenga, if we could just pause for one moment. We're having some technical difficulties.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, something happened. My screen. Oh, you froze. We all froze.
Yeah, no.
We all froze.
Ms.
We
Brain,
could-
could you put up the break screen, please? We'll start in about at 10:20.
You don't get these problems in person. You don't get these problems.
You don't come out choppy.
But if we go up the process.
We're back.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Prenga.
I'll start from the beginning again. Good morning, everyone. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals public review session for March 12, 2024. Please note that Commissioner Sheta will be participating remotely today. We have a decision item on the SOC calendar from yesterday. The calendar number is 2021-56BZ, 341 39th Street, Brooklyn. We just received the certification form for that application. We have received a final EAS, proposed plans with environmental notes, and a commitment letter which is signed. If Ms. Banky would like to say anything else.
That's it. Thanks.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. this, finally, we have all the necessary sign off. I want to thank Ms. Benke and Ms. Prenga for diligently working on this application and getting it coordinated with our agencies and with the applicant. So thank you very much for your effort, and it's much appreciated by the board. So I want to make a motion to approve this amendment to enlarge the school and modify prior board conditions with amended conditions. And these are conditions related to DEP and DOT. So I'm going to first read out the DEP conditions regarding noise for floors 1 and 2. A composite window wall attenuation of 28 dBA would be required for the second space, for the school space along 39th Street, which is the southern facade. Composite window wall attenuation of 31 dBA would be required on the second floor on the northern facade, abutting the proposed play area terrace, and a 10-foot high perimeter fence for the second floor terrace fitted with acoustical material, which have a minimum of 28 dB STC rating and covered at least the bottom 6 feet of the fence, covered to the 6 foot of that fence. A closed window wall condition is required, so a closed window condition and an alternate means of ventilation shall be provided. For floors 3 to 4, a composite window wall attenuation of 31 dBA would be required on the third floor of the northern and eastern facade facing the play area. A composite window wall attenuation of 28 dBA would be required for the fourth floor of the northern and eastern facade of the play area, and a closed window condition and an alternate means of ventilation shall be provided. Now, moving on to DOT's condition, and this also includes the school, I think, just want to make sure. The school safety's comments are also integrated into this. To verify the need for a signal timing measure to improve traffic operation at the intersection of 39th Street and 3rd Avenue, a traffic monitoring program, TMP, will be conducted at the intersection of 39th Street and 4th Avenue and 39th Street and 3rd Avenue on a yearly basis for both the elementary and middle schools for the school year of 2024 to 2025, 2025 to 2026, and 2026 to 2027 by August 15th of each year. The TMP will include trip generation, modal split, and origin destination surveys, traffic and pedestrian data collection, field observations of intersection and operations, and queue lengths, level of service analysis utilizing Synchro, including progression, recommendations to improve intersection operations if necessary. The applicant will prepare and submit a scope of work to New York City DOT for review and approval prior to undertaking any TMP. And the applicant will submit a report summarizing the final findings of each TMP, as well as all necessary materials for New York City DOT's review and approval for per their commitment letter. An arrival and dismissal operation plan will be submitted for DOT school safety review on a yearly basis for the school years of 2024 to 2025, 2025 to 2026, and 2026 to 2027 prior to June 30th of each year, and shall comply with the conditions stated in the DOT school safety comment letter dated 9/50/2023. The applicant commits in the 2024 to 2025 to a long range to 2027 to 2028 safety plan, providing five dedicated safety staff to manage both the elementary school and middle school arrival and dismissal operations. The proposed staffing plans will be initially applied to both the elementary school and middle school and adjusted annually as warranted. The applicant will be responsible for all costs associated with design and installation of the proposed project-related improvements, TMP and any subsequent measures recommended by the TMP as per New York City DOT's direction. If traffic controls are warranted and approved by New York City DOT, the applicant will engage a design consultant that will submit the necessary sign designs and work will closely and will work closely with the signal division at New York City DOT unless city elects to provide the signage design. New York City DOT will continue to participate in the in the review process related to proposed improvements. Applicant will submit all required drawings as per AASHTO and New York City DOT specifications and requirements for DOT review and approval. All transportation measures are as described in the final environmental assessment statement, Chapter 16, Transportation DOT Proposed Approval Commitment Letter, SECRA number 24 BSA 012K, shall be implemented with final approval of measures to be determined by the New York City Department of Transportation. Okay, so with that, I make a motion to approve.
Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
This application has been granted.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
So we will continue the review session with the zoning calendar, the BZ calendar. Continued hearings. Item number 18, calendar number 2023-23 BZ 295 Exeter Street, Brooklyn.
So at the initial hearing that was held on October 31st, board had expressed concern about the parking configuration, inconsistencies in the documents, and that the building had to meet all flood regulations. Neighborhood had expressed concern about the shadow, and a shadow analysis was provided by the applicant. The proposed building will be built to the maximum permitted height. While such an analysis is not required, if it was provided by the applicant in response, but it was provided in response to the concerns that was raised by the neighbor, and that's why we see the shadow analysis. I just want to let everybody know why that was provided. It's not something the board requires. It was out of a concern raised by the neighbor. The application has provided clarification regarding flood regulations and that the proposed building would be compliant. I just want to note that very recently, as recent as yesterday, board in its review of an appeals case looked at the Appendix G regulations and its applicability. So I want to make it very clear that any increase in the degree of non-complying use in the basement, it would be contrary to the Appendix G, and BSA is definitely not waiving any of the regulations with regards to Appendix G. So it would have to meet all the requirements as DOB in its review deems necessary. The proposed enlargement will also legalize an enlargement in the rear. The permitted floor area increase from the pre-existing 1920 to 2000. The increase is not that significant. It went from 0.62 FAR to 0.64. The proposed enlargement would add another additional floor area, which will increase the total floor area to 1. And board typically directs the applicants to keep to 1 FAR in such zoning districts. The enlargement will be an extension in the rear, and it will increase the height of the attic. It will actually add an attic, and that is because of the existing configuration, it makes it challenging to create an alternate stair alignment, and so to the attic, and therefore the height of the building increases in the rear to accommodate a stair to be able to access the attic all the way from the ground floor. So the proposed enlargement meets the intent of section 73-622. As I stated, because of the existing floor layout and the need for a stair to access the attic and the second floor, the attic and the second floor is not able to set back from the rear yard. I think this is the best we can expect on this site, so I have no additional comments on this. Vice Chair Shabeta.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with your analysis. I have no additional comments.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown,
I have no additional comments.
thank you. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I have no comments, but I have an advice to the applicant, to the architect specifically. I did look at the flood analysis that they provided on page 3. This is sheet BSA-Z03.01. Looking at the FEMA flood map, I wasn't sure which flood zone was the building. However, on the page I just indicated, the architect provided like a very extensive analysis for the flood zone, and he ran like different scenarios with different color codes. If you want me put it on the screen, I can do that. That's what I'm referring to. My concern is that specific line, and I see that at the very end, that let's say that this is the applicable flood zone to the building. If this is the one, I do believe that the architect should retake a look at the numbers, because the way he's looking at him, he's comparing the 15.8, which is kind of a design flood elevation for flood resistant design, and is comparing this to the 16.12, which is the finished floor of the existing portion of the building. This building is a 2-family that's going to be built around an existing building. That the 15.85 was reached at by adding 10.85, which is the grade elevation, plus 3.225 feet, which is the wave that's come during the inundation of the area around the building, which gave us from 13.85 to 15.85. The issue for me is this, that 15.85 is being compared to the 16.12, which is the finished floor elevation, and the architect indicated that this is fine. And he wrote, if you can read their lowest horizontal member, that comparison of the lowest horizontal member always done to the bottom of that member. We take the lowest portion, and this is exactly what the appendix G says. It says the lowest portion of the horizontal member, and it means the horizontal structural member here. The finished floor is 16.12. If the joists are, let's say, roughly 12 inches deep, that means that the bottom of the structural element, the lowest horizontal structural element or member, is 16.12 minus 1, which takes us to 15.12. If you compare that to the 15.85, the 15.85 is greater. So my concern is, if the architect just take this and go to the DOB, he might need to come back to us. So I just want to make sure that he's aware of that. Again, this is not a comment, but this is one of my observations that and I'm not sure which flood zone is this building in, actually, because the FEMA map the submitted FEMA map doesn't like give a clear answer to that. So hopefully this would be helpful to the architect in finalizing this project. Thank you.
I just want to make sure everywhere in this drawing, it's clearly noted that DOB is not waiving any flood regulations, and it shall comply with all the flood regulations as reviewed and approved by DOB.
You mean BSA, Chair, right?
ESA is not waiving.
What did I say?
You said
DOB.
DOB.
Oh, shoot. delete, delete. BSA is not waiving any of the underlying flood regulations. It is up to DOB to make its determination, and should this affect the layout or anything, that's owner is taking the risk. But BSA is not waiving any flood regulations. We cannot. This is a special permit just specific to side yards and rear yards and FAR. And nothing with flood regulations. And I think those notes should be written on pretty much on every sheet of this drawing. I think yesterday's meeting, yesterday's discussion on a particular case was very enlightening. And given that what we heard from DOB, I really want to alert the applicants. Do not assume that your interpretation of the regulations is correct unless you get a complete review and approval from DOB beforehand on this and come to us. And then we do the special permit based on that. That's a different matter. But without it, do not assume that you're correct. The flood regulations are pretty complicated. Please ensure that you have all the approvals in place as you wish, or you should, not wish, as you should have. Okay, Commissioner Yoon, sorry.
Thank you. I agree with you that the application meets the intent of 73-622. I didn't have any additional comments. I do have it as a in the flood zone V and coastal A. So, and also as part of a waterfront block, but not a waterfront lot, which is explained in the statement of facts. Just to add on to what Commissioner Sheta said. So I have nothing further to add.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to the next case.
Item number 19, calendar number 2023-24BZ, 1046 East 22nd Street, Brooklyn.
Okay, the initial hearing on this application was held on January 9th. Corrections to the plans and documents were required. We have received a revised set of plans, statement of facts. I think none of us had any really comment on the proposed expansion. It's really getting the applications all lined up, and it is still missing those alignment. The applicant is proposing a rear yard setback on the second floor and attic, which would be 24 foot 3 inches, whereas on the first floor it's 20 foot. The elevation and sections did not show the permitted sky exposure plane pursuant to zoning resolution section 73-631 above the permitted perimeter wall height. While there is no height limit, it is the sky exposure plane that determines the maximum permitted height. So difficult to determine if the proposed enlargement is within the permitted sky exposure plane, and board cannot waive it. The statement of fact on page 2, paragraph has incorrect proposed floor area. It is not matching the plans or the zoning analysis. It is not matching the plans and zoning as per floor also. Indicate in the rear yard the width of the second and the attic, the rear yard width on the second and the attic, and also in the zoning chart in the plan. And also, I think in the statement of facts on page 8. So with regards to zoning resolution section 23-141, it is applicable for open space ratio, which is 150% minimum. Now, it is indicated in the plan set as lot coverage, and the plan set in the zoning analysis states the proposed complies. It does not. It needs to be corrected. And the statement of fact does not discuss the increase in the compliance or non-compliance of open space ratio on page 8. It refers to FAR, side yards, rear yard, but does not have any statement with regards to open space ratio. I think these are just very little simple things that just needs to be consistent. And because the reason I'm making sure all these documents are aligned is because should public get anybody reviews what the board approved, there should be consistency across all the documents and be clear for anybody in future as to what was granted. And it should not put any doubt to the fact that the drawing is saying A and the statement of fact is saying something else. A lot coverage study was provided. It has been provided in response to the open space ratio analysis, and it is a standard that has been accepted by the board as it's like the positive negative of the analysis. So that was fine. So please correct these elements of the submissions. Otherwise, the board did not have any comment on the proposed enlargement. Vice Chair Shibata.
Thank you. I'll just add that they did amend the statement of facts to show that to state there were no open violations. And they also removed the stairs that seemed to lead to nowhere from the plans and made it much more clear.
Yeah.
Also, the dormer wings have been removed from the floor plans. And I have nothing further.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown.
No comment.
Commissioner Shetta.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing further from me on this.
Thank you. Commissioner Yoon.
Yeah, thank you for making the updates to the existing walls to remain, both on the plans and the calculation. I have nothing further.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
New cases on the BZ calendar. Item number 20, calendar number 2023-11BZ, 1008 Banner Avenue, Brooklyn.
Okay. We received proof of service of initial filing and hearing notices. Community board has voted to disapprove this application. And the main concern was safety issues with small children and additional congestion in the area. This is an application to operate a daycare facility in a C81 zoning district pursuant to special permit zoning resolution section 73-19. It's a corner triangular lot. And it is located in an AE flood zone. The applicant, the building is already under construction. It's a 3-story triangulated building, which would be used for a community facility for a daycare, a Big Dreams Daycare Center. And it would be for elementary kids, I think from ages, trying to see my notes. I think it's from 6 months to 5 years or something like that. Infancy to kindergarten. And it is the expected capacity is 139. And so the applicant has to provide all the justifications to meet the findings. I'll go through each one of those findings. With regards to finding A, site selection criteria, the applicant has provided the criteria and identified 2 sites. I think they did a pretty good job of going through that analysis. I was satisfied with that. With regards to finding B, the site abuts R6 districts, so definitely meets that requirement. With regards to finding C, the site abuts a very busy intersection and the roads are well traveled by vehicles. So need to ensure that there is adequate window wall and sound attenuation and alternate means of ventilation is provided. And this is for DEP to look into. With regards to D, I have a lot of comments. And my first question is regarding the temporal distribution of trips as listed on the in the EAS tables 4.3 to 4.7. It shows the total number of children is adding up to 181 when the capacity limit is 139. Yeah, unless I'm miscalculated. That's at least one of the tables I calculated. That's what it came to. The breakdown that is shown, it's shown in a 1 hour increment, and then there is also an overlapping half an hour increment. I wanted to know why it's being done in that way. And I would like to know what is the incremental breakdown for every 10-minute, because the applicant states that it would be a staggered into arrival delivery of every 10 minutes. So I would like to know what would that be? And the other question I have is, how do you stagger? I've heard of mostly stagger arrival and dismissal with regards to vehicles. I do not recall a discussion with regards to staggered arrival and dismissal when parents are or guardians are walking the children. So I would like to know how that is being done. And it's not clear if there will be a drop-off and pickup area on both frontages. And if there is, will there be a curbside area designated for school drop-off and pickup? And what would be the individual capacity and total capacity of that drop-off and pickup? And how would that serve the arrival and dismissal by vehicles? And that leads to the other question, because the modal split seems to favor pedestrian significantly more than the vehicular. And I wanted to know, how did they arrive at that? Because this is a very auto-dependent neighborhood. So I just wanted to know, how was that arrived at? I would like the applicant to provide operational plan regarding how students will be taken into the building from the curbside or dropped off or be brought out of the school for pickup. The reason I'm stating that is because the curbside drop-off and pickup can't cause vehicular delay on these two streets, which are very well utilized by vehicles. As a matter of fact, Banner has a dedicated parking lane, and then there is a dedicated right turn lane. So we're onto, I think, the approach to the Shore Boulevard, Shore Parkway, and also continuation to the Coney Island Avenue to the north. So it is a quite heavily trafficked, traveled corridors. I would like to know how those are being dealt with. And I believe the application has been sent to DOT for review. Just as the application was received, it was sent. Any other update, Ms. Benke?
That's correct. We sent the EAS for WRP review, and DCP issued comments on February 16th. We sent it for DOT review. We haven't heard back yet, as well as air quality, noise, and hazmat, and DEP issued comments on hazmat on March 7th.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Shibata.
The only thing I'll add is that WRP issued comments on February 22nd, and they're waiting for a response.
Right. Any with regards to the findings of the
I do share your position on the findings. I believe that while A and B are found, I think we need a little bit more work on C and D, especially with the concerns that the community board had raised.
Thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown.
I actually am fine with this case. I feel that they satisfied A and B. I feel that C, since the building is currently under construction, they need to definitely work with DEP and DOT to ensure that it is finished to the highest quality to protect the students. And as for D, I know that they're basing their whole operation on the other site that they have. And I just had similar questions to you, like what happens during these particular windows if people don't arrive exactly when they should? Because it really is predicated on the fact that people almost follow it to a military precision.
Mhm.
You have 10 minutes to get there and you're either going to enter on Banner or you're going to enter on Guider, one or the other. But what happens if you fall out of your 10-minute window? Like, are you fined? Like, what's the cost of failure here? Because, you know, if it turns out that you're slotted for 7 to 7:10 and you're running late that morning and you come in at 8:10, and you come in at 8:30 is when the bulk of the people start showing up, you could be throwing off their whole process. So I would just want to have some assurance that this procedure works and it works well-oiled.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with what's being said. I believe A and B I'm fine with them. C, yes, the building is under construction, so they're gonna have a chance ample chance actually to build it the way DEP requires. For the last one, I do have a question. I did do a Google search, and I just want to share what I got. Give me 1 second. Yeah, this is when I researched the locations for daycares around. This is the subject site, and all these locations are kind of like daycare. So I just need the applicant to comment on that. I did this because I felt like that the community is opposing, very opposing actually to the application. So I just wanted the applicant to cover responding to that issue. Thank you.
What is the question that you're trying to ask by showing this map? Is it
What is the benefit to the community if all these locations are daycares, and the radius here, I'm not sure if you can see the distance. This is 1,000 feet. So within 1,000 feet radius, within 2,000 feet radius, you have like too many locations of daycare. So I just want the applicant to explain to us how this is going to benefit the community or the neighborhood. Thank you.
I don't think that is part of the finding, so I'm not sure the relevance of that question. I do want to point out, I live in a neighborhood which is a very young neighborhood that is and a growing neighborhood. And every stone, if you just have to throw a stone and you will hit a daycare. So I think it's a market decision that is not for us to determine, and that is not what the finding asks for. If there's a demand and there's a need, the school feels they can provide. The issue before us is site selection and if they meet that, I don't think this question is relevant. I'd respectfully would ask you not to ask the question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Yoon.
Thank you. My main concern is with finding D. I also would like the applicant to explain the modal split and how it's, I think it's 88% of children are expected to come on foot. This is a very car dependent neighborhood, it seems. Also, Guider is obviously a very, very heavily trafficked street as it leads you to the on-ramp to Belt Parkway. I went to the site. Also, Banner Avenue is a one-way street where there's a car wash across that is incredibly busy, or at least it was on the day that I went. There were cars double and triple parked. There are customers waiting in the street. It's a very congested block. So both of these entrances would almost be mandatory that people are picking up on foot, because I don't know how cars would actually be able to idle and get their children out of here safely. So, and school safety has waived a review on this because it's a daycare. So I just expressed concern similar to the community board about the safety of the kids and how this is not going to further congest these two blocks from a vehicular standpoint.
Thank you. School safety waived it because it falls below the threshold of the student body. I think their
Age and size.
agent,
It's age and capacity.
oh, agent capacity. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought it was just a capacity. The other thing, thank you for clarifying. I was talking about Geiger when I was talking about the movement of vehicles, and I instead I called it Banner. It's the Geiger that has that one protected, dedicated parking
Right,
space
right.
abutting the project site, and then there is a dedicated right turn lane, and then there's one through lane, I think. That's what I was referring to. Yeah, so I think overarching concern that you're hearing from all the board members are regarding the modal split, the trip gen, the staggered. Those are the questions that we have. Okay, thank you. Ms. Prenger, you have your hand up.
I just want to add something to the discussion. Just to note, because there's been a lot of discussion about the modal split. The modal split in the EAS does not match the modal split in the statement of facts. Just so you know, the applicant did provide a letter about this that's in the record, and they discussed that the daycare used an existing location for the modal split, I believe in the statement of facts, but for the EAS, they used census tract data because they thought that DOT would accept census tract data for that. So I just want to note there is a difference in the two documents.
Because I was referring to the trip modal distribution that I saw in the EAS.
I was referring to the one in the statement of facts.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't match because of what I said. The census tract data was used for, and I'll circulate the letter so that you can see their explanation. But if in the EAS, it does have the journey to work data for census tracts, a bunch of them, and it doesn't match the statement of facts because they used an existing location.
I think that's a little bit confusing because the whole purpose of meeting the finding should be parallel with EAS. Because DOT has to review that content and the data has to submit it based on DOB's analysis, and that should be mirrored in this. That's the finding that we need to incorporate into the statement of findings. Now, one could say, in addition to the census, this is the other and another way of looking at the modal split.
It also, sorry, that the existing location that's referenced is in Middle Village, Queens, which I believe is a pretty different location as far as neighborhood and demographics, car ownership, etc. I mean, I'm just based on my personal knowledge of those two neighborhoods. So I'd like the applicant to actually explain why it would make sense to use the Middle Village location, the Happy Caterpillar location, to use as a model for this location.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, we were also, sorry to interrupt, are you done?
Go ahead, Ms. Bailey.
Yeah, we were also concerned with the difference, and that's why we asked for the cover letter, but we didn't want to pick which one, we didn't want to predict which one DOT would agree with. So we just added the cover letter for this initial review to see which assumptions DOT is okay with.
I think DOT often goes for both, right? They want sometimes they ask for survey.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for your thorough review of this. Next case.
Okay. Item number 21, calendar number 2023-63BZ, 4152 Ocean Avenue, Brooklyn.
Okay. We receive proof of service of initial filing and hearing notices. We did receive a community board approval with conditions being that the 4-foot rear yard easement shall be that it remain accessible for access of utilities, and we did receive one letter of support. I did not see in the drawings any specific outline of where the easement is that the community board was referring to, so maybe the applicant can clarify that. This is an application for an enlargement of an existing detached home located in Commuter District 15 in Brooklyn in R3-1 zoning district pursuant to zoning resolution section 73-622. This is an exterior existing building, and based on the existing floor plan and ZOLA, it seems there are 2 dwelling units. The statement of fact says 1. So please revise and the also provide string dimensions, the existing site plan with string dimensions of existing yards, widths, building elevation, floor to floor heights, etc. The site is definitely in a flood zone, and there are 2 thresholds for me on this one prior to any review. One is that the proposed enlargement, which the applicant acknowledges in its submission, that the retention of the existing exterior walls is well below the 50% threshold that the board has been applying over the years and has been consistent. There has been no change in that policy. Applicant in its response to the notice of comment states that pursuant to the Building Bulletin 2016-012, I quote, to fill an alteration is in quote, at DOB, the floor surface area of a prior building code cannot be increased by more than 110% over the amount of existing floor area. The proposal seeks to maintain most of the floor surface area of the existing home, 88%, and thus can be filed as an alteration. So this is the applicant's response as to that, how the way BSA should approach retention of existing walls should be consistent with buildings bulletin. The applicant team fully knows that the board's policy has not changed to date, and the board is not constrained by the definition of DOB in its interpretation of alteration to administer zoning resolution section 73-622. The legislative history is the one that provides the guidance, and one can refer to the City Planning Commission reports from the initial one was from 1997, N970203ZRY, when the text was adopted, and it clarifies the intent of the zoning resolution section with regards to enlargement. The 1977 report states it was to provide, quote, provide a means for owners of single and 2-family residences, detached and semi-detached, to make enlargements to the existing homes. Furthermore, the applicant is fully aware of some of the most recent board's decisions regarding 920 Shore Road, BSA case number 2020-18BZ regarding the applicability of DOB Bulletin 2016 and 012. In the resolution, board had stated that, quote, this standard, that is the DOB Bulletin standard of 2016-012, is not used by board in its determination pursuant to zoning resolution section 73-622. The DOB Bulletin sets out to clarify how floor surface area is calculated to for compliance with construction codes and for permit filing, and does not pertain to whether there is an existing building as defined in the zoning resolution. So I would say that board's policy is consistent with the intent of the special permit text that was codified in 1977, and any elimination over 50% of exterior wall and joist is more than the text envisioned. The intent of the text was to allow enlargement to the existing home. The existing home has to be there for it to be enlarged. When the entire walls and have been removed, there isn't an existing home. The joists may be temporarily supported, but that's not the existing home. So the word "to" is adding to the is what one needs to look at. It is adding to the existing home. It is not enlargement of an existing home. It's an enlargement to. So the existing building remains, and it's an enlargement to it. 20% retention, therefore, does not meet that, and it's a complete tear down of the existing walls. The applicant also refers to the planned City of Yes for Housing Opportunity text amendment that is in its very nascent stage. It has not been certified. It has not undergone any public review yet. And I would say that until the text is made public, it is a speculation at best. It is if, however, the applicant believes that the text will simplify the process to the enlargement, I strongly would encourage the applicant to consider withdrawing this application and file at DOB once the text is adopted. And until then, text as it stands today and the BSA's policy that has been applied holds. The other threshold factor is that it is located in flood zone AE. And since the site is in that flood zone, indicate the flood resistant construction elevation in the plans, and the design flood elevation, which would be 9+3 from the base plane measured in NAVD 88. So all the elevations have to be shown in NAVD 88. And furthermore, what is most concerning and would be absolutely not complying with the flood regulations, as we understand based on our discussions from an appeals case yesterday, is that the use of the cellar space does not comply with the flood regulations. The proposed uses in the cellar space can only, in an A zone, can only be used for parking, storage, building, and access to a crawl space, not for the uses that have been shown in the plans, including a gym, recreation space, sauna, office space, generous laundry room. So I would like I want to make sure the applicant is fully aware of the regulations, and the board is absolutely not weighing in or waiving any of the flood regulations. And should the applicant feel that it is absolutely right in its assessment of the flood regulations, I would say that the applicant is taking a huge risk in proceeding in this manner, because what is being proposed in the basement, in the cellar, will fail to meet BCG 304-.1.1.2, which is in enclosures below the design flood elevation. And Commissioner Yoon can shed more light on this. She brought this, she actually educated me on this part of the factor. And the drawings on every page of this drawing sheet should indicate that the board is not waiving any of the applicable flood regulations and Appendix G. And it is for DOB to make the determination that the proposed development will comply with every elements of those regulations. So moving to the special permit 73-622. I think the proposed enlargement is within the range of the homes that are built in this area. So I don't have an issue with the proposed enlargement, but the question is the threshold. And that looms larger than what is being proposed, and the plan needs to be revised to address the threshold and the flood regulation. And or the board can, the applicant can choose to withdraw and file as of right when the text gets amended. Those are my comments. Vice Chair Shibeta.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to expand on maintaining our 50% retention of joists and walls policy. It is my understanding that while before I was on the board, we maintained this 50% rule. So to grant outside of this rule without legislative intent, some mandate or specific unique facts, or an agreement to change policy moving forward, I think at this point would be arbitrary and capricious.
Okay.
I have nothing further to add.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
The only thing I wanted to add was an answer to your question about where the easement's located.
Mhm.
In these blocks that are in this area, there's a maintenance easement in the rear. That's like, it extends, it's like 8 feet wide, 4 feet to each side, to each, street side basically, but it goes down the center of the block for access to the power lines and everything like that. And some of the properties have actually filed paperwork to capture part of that easement or part of their property, but this is not one of them. So they only have title to the 100 feet according to the tax map. So the community board wants them to, I guess, not put a fence up or anything in that rear portion that would block access to that 4 feet.
So the easement in this case does not affect this property at all.
Right, it's after this property.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't locate it in this survey also, so I wasn't sure what the applicant. Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I second your comments regarding the retention of the perimeter walls. On the flood, I saw that they put too many details regarding the flood resistant design. I on page, I believe this is page 1 of the PDF, where the 2 FEMA maps, the 2013 and the 2007 FEMA maps are shown. There is a note added that flood regulations, including Article 6, Chapter 4 of the zoning resolution and Appendix G of the New York City Building Code, as applicable, shall be complied with. I would like ask our PMs when we encounter a case with a flood zone like that, the introductory sentence, the first sentence should be BSA is not waiving any flood related regulations, period. And after that, the applicant can add whatever. But we do have a standard language that need to show up on any case with flood compliance requirements. That's what I have for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Yoon.
Thank you. I agree with what you stated, Chair. Obviously the threshold issue, and also all of the flood elevations need to be demarcated on the plans and the uses need to be compliant with Appendix G. And it's quite clear in Appendix G that you're very limited in what can be below the flood resistant construction elevation. No utilities, no usable spaces, just parking, storage, and building access. So even though we are not the authorities who would approve or deny something based on its flood regulation in this case, we're not going to move forward with a case that clearly is not compliant with Appendix G. So I would suggest that the seller be revised.
Yeah.
I have nothing further to add.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think approving a plan with those set of uses in the seller would be misleading for DOB, and I rather have nothing shown on the seller and can say for DOB to consider and approve. And that way, you design at the risk of DOB.
We can add a note to that seller on the seller itself, within the seller footprint, saying that the layout and the uses within the seller shall be reviewed and approved by DOB. So we're off the hook on that.
I want to kind of run this by our council and make sure the wording is done in a way where it does not lead to any confusion. And honestly, I would prefer it be just an empty space where there's nothing there and it's for them to, because I do not at all want to advocate a layout of a floor plan, especially in this case. I mean, there's an enlargement of the cellar happening. The portion that is being enlarged should just be a crawl space. It really should not be a full height basement, cellar space that can be occupied. So I am just concerned about the way this has been represented. So I want to think about this. And we can, and I want to discuss with our council on this before I can formalize it. But at this point, I'm just voicing my concern of having a plan showing these uses.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Next case, please.
Item number 22, calendar number 2023-70BZ 215-24 24th Avenue, Queens.
Okay, we received proof of service of initial filing and hearing notices. Community Board has voted to approve this project. This is an application for a bulk variance to legalize an enlargement of a one-family detached home. So the applicant is seeking a waiver pursuant to section 23-47 of the minimum yard requirement and 73 and 23-543 with regards to zoning lot with multiple rear yards. So this is one of those perfect example of a flag-shaped site, which has a narrow entryway from a mapped road, and then the larger portion of the lot lies in the middle of the block, abutted by several homes. There's like 8 homes that kind of share the rear yard with this subject site. So this is an existing one-family building, detached home that has been located at this site since 1950, so pre-61 building. And it was it received a certificate of occupancy in 2001, but there was a text amendment that was adopted in 2008, which basically required that any lot such as this with multiple rear yards would have to comply with all the rear yard requirements for all the multiple yards. So you'd have to provide a 30-foot rear yard for all the various multiple yards, rear yards that you have. In this case, the project site, the flagship portion has 2 or 3 2 rear yard, 2 30-foot rear yards. So which almost narrows the width of the flag to a point where almost nothing can be built on the site. And the property owner had enlarged it and is seeking a legalization of that. I really did not have any issues with it. The fire department has signed off on it and signed off with conditions. Now, fire department did sign off on a plan, apparatus access plan. I would like that plan to be part of our approved set of plan. And these conditions should be reflected in the plan and the site plan that the board approves. So going through the findings, I think the applicant did a pretty good job of identifying the uniqueness of it, and I am satisfied with that. Neighborhood character, I really did not have any issues with it. And the self-created hardship, the applicant did provide all the deeds, and it seems this has been a standalone site for a very long period of time. It was interesting to see the historic Sanborn maps when it was part of a farmland, and then how slowly the roads start building around, but it somehow they missed it. It's like everything got built, but it got missed. So the ask is really minimal, and like I said, I just want the fire department conditional approval to be part of the plan, and that the building shall comply with all the fire department conditions, and they should provide the stamped approved plan for our complete set. Vice Chair Shibeta.
Thank you, Chair. I believe this is a minimal ask, and I believe it meets the findings. I have no comments on this.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown.
I also think this is a very reasonable ask. When you look at the as-of-right map of what could actually be built, the very long, narrow triangle of space that you could build on doesn't even line up with the existing home.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's no way you could do anything in terms of enlargement here. So I definitely agree that a variance is warranted, and I think it is minimal.
Thank you. Commissioner Shetta?
Thank you, Chair. I do believe that the application meets the findings, and I have no further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Yoon?
Thank you. I have no issues with this case other than to state the obvious that doing work without a permit while you're under review at DOB seems like something we would not condone. But I don't have any issues that are substantive to the ask, and I'm okay with the application.
The only thing I would say, that work happened during pandemic, so who knows
Yeah.
what may have happened.
It's true.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Next case, please.
New cases on the BZ calendar, item number 23, calendar number 2023-72 BZ, 8615 257th Street, Queens.
We received proof of service of initial filing and hearing notices. Community board voted to approve the project, though the vote was 23 to 11 in opposition. This is an application for a bulk modification pursuant to zoning resolution section 73-621 to legalize a recent enlargement and further enlargement of an existing single-family detached home in an R2 zoning district. DOB objection sheet refers to 73-622. It really should be 73-621. Since 73-622 is not applicable it's only applicable in commuter districts in Brooklyn. So please revise the DOB objection sheet. The applicant is seeking a waiver of open space ratio and lot coverage. And this is again an interesting situation where so the applicant is legalizing the excess as-built lot coverage and open space and seeking an additional enlargement of 380 square foot on the subject site. So what's there are a couple of corrections that need to be looked into. So regarding the zoning resolution section cited in the statement of fact, page 2, paragraph 1, line 4 regarding lot coverage. So it states zoning resolution section 23-44B5I is so that's not there in the zoning resolution. The correct zoning resolution section is zoning resolution section 23-442B2 I. It's not B5I, it's B2I for accessory parking space and a detached garage. So again, per zoning resolution change that happened, a detached garage, while it is considered a permitted obstruction in the yard, in an R2 district, it has to be included as part of the lot coverage analysis. So when the original enlargement happened in the lot coverage analysis, the garage was not factored in, and that kind of bumps up the lot coverage, and the waiver is for that. So the applicant said the enlargement was based on a DOB approved plan. So I would like the applicant for our files to submit the approved plan for job number 421263153. And in terms of the threshold, this is a pre-61 building. The applicant confirmed that by providing historic Sanborn maps dating back from 1934 and also photos from the tax, I think from 1940. And per Zola, the building was constructed in 1929 and altered in 2009. And that's the alteration that resulted in this problem. With regards to the findings of 73-621, the threshold is nothing can be more than 10%. And the applicant, what is proposing is completely meets the maximum permitted. It's well below that. So I don't have any other questions or comments, so except for those corrections with regards to the text, that zoning resolution section that has been reflected in the statement of fact, and correction to the objection sheet, DUB objection sheet. Vice Chair Shibata.
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing to add.
Commissioner Otley Brown.
I have no additional comments.
Okay. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. Same here.
Thank you. Commissioner Yoon.
Just a housekeeping thing on the Sanborn, the site wasn't indicated, and since the block numbers have changed, it took me some time to figure out where we were. So just generally, always look at the site on any of the maps or plans that are submitted. Otherwise, I have nothing further to add.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I think that was the last case.
This concludes the public review session for the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals. Would you like to take a break for the hearing?
Yeah, so let's start the public hearing at 11:30.
Okay, so 10-minute break. I'll put up the sign.
Thank you.
Ms. Prenga, we are live, we are streaming. You may proceed with the public hearing.
Good morning, everyone. This is the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals public hearing for March 12th, 2024. We will begin with the BZ zoning calendar. Continued hearings. Item number 18, calendar number 2023-23BZ.
All right.
Please raise your right hand. I will swear you in. I can't see if the right hand is raised. I apologize.
We,
Okay.
the board
Thank
members confirm.
Oh,
And
thank
if
you.
we could
Okay.
remove the background,
Sure.
thank you.
That'll help.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, do you affirm, now I see it, thank you. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions? Thank you. You may proceed and please state your name for the record.
We attended your review session and we stand on our submission. Thank you.
All right, I don't think we had any questions or comments. Thank you for making all the changes. I just want to make sure that the drawing sheet specifically states that board is not waiving any flood-related regulations.
Yes, it actually states the exact language is that BSA is not waiving any flood regulations, including Article 6, Chapter 4 of the zoning resolutions, Appendix G of the building code is applicable, shall be complied with, as reviewed and approved by the Department of Building. So that's the exact language on the plans that you have.
All righty. Any questions or comments? We can then go to the public.
If you wish to provide testimony on this application, the calendar number is 2023-23BZ. The address is 295 Exeter Street, Brooklyn. You may join via Zoom remotely. The webinar ID is 861-4352-1529. The passcode is 494234. Or you may dial in 646-558-8656. And you may enter the webinar ID and press the pound sign. You may press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute in order to provide the public testimony.
Okay. So everybody is raising their hand.
I have a timer going, so I'll let you know when it ends.
Okay, my only comment will be, I would like this note with regards to BSA not waiving, be included in all the, in the sections and in elevations and specifically in the cellar plan.
There's a hand up in the waiting room.
Ah, okay, I do
Oh, we
see
do.
that.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm going to allow. Go ahead, Miss.
Hi, I
Oh.
just want to say that my name is Isidore Shama. I live 3 houses down from 295 Exeter at 285 Exeter, and I just really think it's nice to see, you know, people building up the neighborhood and beautifying the area. So I just want to show my support.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
The time has passed. And I don't see anyone else besides that member raising their hand, so.
Okay, all right. So, I'm just looking at the set of drawings. Again, I just want to make sure, yeah, and that note is carried through everywhere. Because it's there in some of the sheets and it's not.
Make sure it's on, I understand your intent, and we'll
Okay.
make sure it's on everything.
Thank you, appreciate it. If board is satisfied, I would like to make a recommendation to close.
Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta. Commissioner Sheta.
You're
Shishita,
muted, Commissioner.
he's frozen. Oh. But I saw him move.
There it goes.
Oh, I got frozen for a moment. I vote aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Yoon,
Aye.
this application is closed.
So, we have a pretty heavy agenda for March. I think April is a possibility. I'm going to just look at the schedule for April. Yeah, April will, I think right now looks good. So April decisions and the submission for April is March 28.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The next application is item number 19, calendar number 2023-24 BZ. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do, but unfortunately, you're gonna have to do this again because I'm waiting for Neil and Shannon to attend as well. The architect.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I should have asked if your team was here.
Neil Schwartz has his hand raised in the waiting room.
Yeah, I just moved him to panel, but I don't see the other.
That's fine. They're both in the same office.
Oh, they're both in the same office. Okay. Okay. Hi, so I guess we'll do this again. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
You may proceed. Please state your name for the record.
Lisa Fullader from Eric Palatnik PC. I'm here with Shannon and Neil. Thank you so much for joining me. And we appreciate your comments. I'll just quickly go through them and any misunderstandings. That's why I have the team here today, just in case. So first, you talked about permitted sky exposure plane. It was difficult to determine. Neil and Shannon, if there's anything you'd like to add about adding that to the plan.
We had it on initially and it just got lost in the shuffle of reorganizing the pages. We do clear, so we do comply, but we'll let it back.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah.
Also, I will make sure to update the proposed floor area. Thank you for pointing that out and indicate the rear yards and how they change from the first and the second floor. I appreciate that comment, as well as the open space ratio to talk about the non-compliance with regard to open space and clarify that. I know sometimes it's a little confusing between open space ratio and percentage.
Yeah, and we have accepted lot coverage as a way to kind of show the counter. It's just, since you've very diligently gone through and identified the waivers you need for FAR side and rear, but what did open space do wrong? What did it do wrong?
Oh, confusing. So I will add that to the statement of facts, not a problem. And then I wanted to make sure that that was all the comments covered, because I know there's some alignment that you were talking about.
Yeah, I think those were the main ones. And just make sure all the zoning resolution sections that are listed, both in the zoning analysis sheet, and if they're referred in the statement of facts, and in the drawing plan set also, there's a zoning chart. So in some places, some were stated correctly, in some places they were not. So just please make sure it's consistent across all those three documents. Otherwise, I don't think the board had any issues with the proposed enlargement. It's just making the documents.
Makes sense.
Any questions or comments? Let's go to the, sorry, did anybody have? Okay, let's go to the public then.
If you wish to provide public testimony on this application, the application we're discussing is item number 19, calendar number 2023-24BZ, 1046 East 22nd Street, Brooklyn. You may join via Zoom. The webinar ID is 861-4352-1529. The passcode is 494234. Or you may dial in. Please call 646-558-8656. You may enter the webinar ID and passcode I just listed. Please press please press pound and press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute.
Okay. How long will it take for you to make these changes? I think I'm going to recommend closing it, but I think the earliest, based on what I just said about the previous one, April is.
So we'll take that, right, everyone, in the virtual room?
Earliest as possible. We should be able to make the changes fairly quickly.
Yeah, I think March, we have a pretty packed agenda, so April's reasonable. And this gives you enough time to also look through all the documents and make sure everything is consistent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're just waiting for the clock to run out.
Oh,
What is it?
Yeah.
I can't hear the words, I just hear.
Yeah, there's a protest somewhere. Has the clock run out?
It's almost run out. I'll tell in a few seconds.
Okay.
Okay, now the clock has run out.
Okay, motion to close?
Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
This application is closed.
And I want to thank both the architects participating for this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
New cases on the BZ zoning calendar. Calendar number 2023-11BZ, 1008 Banner Avenue, Brooklyn.
Okay, I see, I just saw Jay Goldstein's hand raised. He should be now joining us shortly. Anyone else from your team, Mr. Goldstein?
Just me for today.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
You may proceed. Please state your name for the record.
Good morning still. Jay Goldstein for the applicant. We heard the board's comments at the review session. We, as Ms. Prenga mentioned with regard to finding C, we will continue to work with the sister agencies to ensure that any remedial measures or safety precautions that they deem fit are put into the building with regard to windows and anything else of that matter. With regard to finding D, we heard the board's concerns. As Tracy mentioned, we had a site in Queens that we were basing our analysis off of. It does seem like this is, based on our projections, this will be a walking school, predominantly walking. But that said, we, as Tracy mentioned, we're waiting for DOT comments so that we can continue to work with DOT to ensure the safety of these students. I would mention that the students are never going to walk by themselves because it is a daycare, so they will be brought by parents or guardians. So we do have that level of comfort once they hit the streets that they won't be on their own or walking individually or in small groups of kids. But we will continue to work with DOT as their comments come in to ensure that the safety, which is our paramount concern, is addressed. And once we have those comments and can amend our operational plan as dictated or as need be, we could submit it to the board.
Right, I would agree that given the age, all the children are going to be accompanied by a guardian. Which is good in terms of the safety measure, but it also adds to the foot traffic and associated traffic measures.
Correct. That's, again, we'll continue to work with DOT to ensure that that is met. We have sufficient frontage to hopefully ensure that we can accommodate the parents and the teachers without impacting the street system.
The other part of the equation, which DOT may not have much say or control on, is the the auto use that is operating on Banner, which is an as of right use, I'm assuming, and and their operation is not something that DOT is going to control. So I don't know how much of an outreach or discussion you have had with it and how
I think that Banner Avenue has a parking lane right in front of our school. So we will address it with DOT just to confirm, but that can, part of the school's operation may be including that as part of our loading and unloading, depending on the needs.
So will all the vehicular parking drop off and pickup be happening just on Banner, or it will be on both?
So our proposal is both, and there's also a driveway that can be accessed. So, as we fine tune this, we can tweak it as necessary. But our analysis and our initial idea was to have entrances on both frontages to keep critical mass away from any one door.
And there is, I think there are some parking spaces that are being proposed within the building. Those are going to be used by whom?
So there's staff parking, but it can also be utilized as a, area for pickup. Like my children's schools utilize that side driveway as an area for pickup also for certain cars.
Okay, so if that is, and that would be an alternate or in addition?
It,
And that's
right now it's an,
determined.
right now that would be an alternate, or not an alternate, that would be up in the air, the driveway portion. The two frontages is what we initially, I believe in our statement discussed. But it's up in the air pending DOT's comments based on their analysis.
I see. So I think that will affect the layout and some of the other operational aspects. So we have to wait for the comments from DOT.
Right. It won't, I don't think it'll affect the layout because we did design the building to have two entrances in anticipation of this. But it'll definitely impact the operations. So we'll wait for those comments and then we'll amend as necessary.
I'm just trying to see if there is an entrance from the car drop-off area to the building
Oh,
directly.
no. There's no, I don't believe there's an entrance from there. Sorry, I thought you meant on the two frontages, on the street frontages.
Right. So, yeah, so I don't know how the drop-off would happen, drop-off pickup would happen in that garage area because it's a one-way, right? I'm trying
Right.
to open right now.
It's, again, that's something that hasn't, the driveway aspect hasn't been fleshed out because we didn't really anticipate if we're gonna use it or not. So we can work with, you know, if DOB comes back and DOT rather comes back and wants that, we can work with them and discuss it. Alternatively, parents can pull up in that driveway and have teachers meet on the street over there to walk the children inside.
Okay, so I think there's a lot of alternatives, but each one needs to be evaluated before we can finalize it. Thanks
Correct.
for the clarification.
Right. I believe, I mean, there's plenty of frontage to make this to make this a safe entry into the building without impacting the neighborhood. And we'll work with the city to make that happen, or work with DOT.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Goldstein? Let's go to the public.
If you wish to provide public testimony on this application, the calendar number is 2023-11BZ. The address is 1008 Banner Avenue, Brooklyn. You may join the Zoom webinar. The webinar ID is 861-4352-1529. The passcode is 494234. You may also dial in at 646-558-8656, and you may press pound, the participant ID, and then press *9 to raise your hand and press *6 to unmute.
Okay, I'm going to let this person whose last number is 58. Please identify yourself, whoever is, I thought I did, just allowed to talk. Okay. Oh, why did it go into? Why did it go into
Yes,
okay.
good day.
Okay, please
I am
identify
Teresa.
yourself.
Excuse me?
Turn off the YouTube and.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, ma'am, please identify yourself and you may proceed. You will
Okay.
have 3 minutes to speak.
You will have 3 minutes.
I am Teresa Scavo, chairperson of Community Board 15 in Brooklyn. I haven't appeared before the BSA for many years, but I felt compelled today to testify. On May 23rd, 2023, Community Board 15 held a public hearing on the application for 1008 Banner Avenue. The zoning committee voted 11 no. The full board during executive session voted unanimously with a vote of 35 no. This is an extreme rarity. The community board members rarely vote in unison, but the full board knew the many dangers posed at this location for a daycare center. The Guider Avenue side of the facility is the access street for the Belt Parkway westbound. The Banner Avenue side of the facility is the exit point of an extremely busy car wash, as well as the access street for the Belt Parkway eastbound. For those of us that know the travel habits of the residents of southern Brooklyn, we all know for a fact everyone drives. No one walks to go get a container of milk. The locality is crowded and congested already. Where are parents dropping their children off? Parents cannot pull up and drop off a 6-month-old at the door. Double parking will only exacerbate an already congested area. I have personally witnessed the waiting line for the car wash wrapping around the corner from Coney Island Avenue down around Guider Avenue. Just yesterday, there were 6 cars wrapped around on Guider waiting to access the car wash. We at Community Board 15 truly believe this is a tragedy waiting to happen. This location is too dangerous for a daycare center where children's lives are being put in danger. Please don't approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cabo. Okay, next person whose phone number ends 548. That's the same? Okay, anyone else?
The application we are discussing is calendar number 2023-11 BC. I think that's the only hand raised.
Is there, I still see the hand raised for person with the phone number ending at 548. Okay, all right. No one else. Okay. Yes, Mr. Goldstein. So I think you're hearing the same kind of.
Yeah, I appreciate Ms. Scavo coming. She's a fierce advocate and I love working with her and I appreciate her coming today. We share the concerns and the safety of our children is paramount. So we'll work with DOT and work with the board to ensure that safety.
At the same time, not becoming an
Right,
impediment,
obviously, without becoming a
consistent flow of traffic and safety of other.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so I think this is in its very early stages. We need DOT and DEP's review on this. I think it would be best to have those coordinated in terms of.
Yeah, I agree. I'll wait. Maybe I'll discuss with Tracy and Jella tomorrow if they have some sort of timeline and figure out a hearing date based on that or hearing schedule based on that.
Yeah. And please keep community board notified of any changes to the plan or anything that happens or the upcoming meetings.
Okay, absolutely.
And we're still going to ask for a response to the other questions that aren't their transportation related, but not from DOT, right? There has to be a submission, correct? For the
Submission will, after we, I guess, fine tune or change whatever needs to be changed, we'll submit based on that.
Okay.
Yeah, my feeling is based on the review from other agencies, it may affect a lot of the documents. So it would be better to coordinate that.
Agreed.
Yeah, like an updated operational plan that the board requested for the arrival dismissal.
Yeah, that'll probably could change depending on how the review goes. Okay.
All right.
Great.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Thank you. You too. New cases. Item number 21, calendar number 2023-63 BZ, 4152 Ocean Avenue, Brooklyn. We have Elise who has raised her hand. Guess she is now.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
All right.
wait,
But
are you in person?
Elise is going to share drawings on the screen, so that's why she has raised her
Okay.
hand. And
Okay.
I think we have Eric Plotnick here and Sandy Anagnostos. So what-
Okay, great. Can everyone raise their hand?
Yeah.
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
You may proceed. Please state your name.
So we appreciate your time. We attended your review session and we heard your adamant position. Bring it down, would that help? There we go. But we would like to present a couple of points to the board and see if we could find a common ground somewhere in between. Elise, you able to pull up that? New York, let's go to the New York Post. Okay, so it's appropriate that while you were having your review session, it's a lot of feedback. If that. How's that? Can you hear me? Okay. During your review session and one of your hearings, I was reading my phone like most people. And the Post came up, New York Post. And Andrew Cuomo came up, former governor of New York State, who was the gentleman that was the legislative force behind congestion pricing. And what Andrew Cuomo says is, yes, in his legislative capacity, he approved it. That was his intent in 2019. But there's been dramatic changes in the world. And it doesn't make much sense. And the dramatic changes are tied right into what we're talking about right here, which is the city of yes. Which is, you're hearing the protests outside. I came in today, I saw 20 armed police officers and state troopers and militia on the subways with me. Nobody could afford to live anywhere in the city. Families are moving to Florida quicker than they're coming in. It's hard to live in New York right now. And the city of yes is the legislature of 2024, not of 2008. City planning of 2024 wrote the proposed legislation that's coming out right now that may or may not go through, which is why we're making such an impassioned plea to you to consider what we're requesting. And we're asking you to set that as the backdrop for what we're considering here. So I'll go now to what I passed up to you. And what I passed up to you is city planning's current intent, not their old intent, not the intent of Marjorie Perlmutter and the de Blasio administration, but the intent of Mayor Eric Adams' administration and Maria Torres Springer's administration. This is their legislation. They are controlling the city right now. And they have to get through this through the city council, which is not an easy body to do business with these days. It's very difficult. And the mayor might have some trouble getting this approved. And we know that because it's difficult. And that's why the board is here. Because you're not a legislative body. You're a mayoral agency that has the ability to cut through the red tape, to use the logic and power and wisdom that is embedded within your souls, to look at the current situation.
It's embedded within the legislative intent, not our souls. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
You're okay. Within your being and the legislative intent. And you have the power to look at things and see how they change. And what we're setting forth here, and Elise, if you could put up the yellow screen, and if you could pass up your yellow plan. What we're going to set forth here is where our problem is. We have a 7,000 square foot zoning lot that the intent of the builder of the property 80 years ago had no idea that there was going to come a special permit section and that it would have a read into section of 50%. And I know it's practice, I know it's policy, I know it's procedure, But let's face it, the 50% is not a legislative ruling. The 50% is an interpretation based upon the legislation. How do I know that? Because for years, I got these things approved one after the other with less than 50%. Years by previous boards, Meenakshi Srinivasan, one after the other. Some were at 50%, it was a guideline, but she was more concerned at that time with the intent of the homeowner to do an enlargement and not build a new home. And what I'm setting forth here to you is clearly the intent of this homeowner is to do an enlargement. There's no intent to not enlarge this home. We've shown you a plan, and what we're showing you right now is the yellow that's up there would be what we could build right now, maintaining the walls the way we've designed it right now, but we're going to abandon this. But what we're trying to explain to you in this plan is that due to the placement of the home on the property, the existing home, it's very difficult to maintain every wall. Thank you. In order to get to the 50%. It's very hard. And Sandy has sat here while you've been talking, trying to figure out another way to do it than the way we presented it to you. Because the way we presented it to you has 28% of the walls. I know you mentioned 20%, Madam Chair. It's about 28%. Between 25 and 30% of the walls are being maintained, give or take. We're also maintaining 78%, 80% of the floor joists. And we're also not asking to be pigs. The request that we're asking for is in line with what the mayor is proposing. 0.75 FAR is what we're asking for. We're not asking for front yard waivers, not asking for side yard waivers. We're increasing the rear yard, making it 30 feet instead of 20 feet. We're increasing the front yard, or slightly reducing the front yard, I should say, but we're not going to the minimum required front yard. So we're not maxing out the front, we're not maxing out the back, we're not maxing out the left, we're not maxing out the right. As far as this, a model special permit application of somebody who's coming here not being gregarious, I think this is it. We're 0.75 FAR. We're not even at 1 FAR. We're doing everything. I think that's a good plan. The problem is this idea that everybody has, you have to maintain the 50% of the walls. And the reason why the mayor is proposing this is because the rule is hurting your neighbors. It's hurting your families that are your friends. It's hurting the community. It's not helping anybody. It's not a rule that's set forth to oh yeah, sure, this is I mean, look at this room. It's a newer room, but we have 3 columns in here. The columns, they're grossly out of place. They don't fit within the, but somebody thought that you should keep something old. I posit to the board that these 6 columns in this room are very much out of character and don't fit within it. I'm suggesting here the maintenance of the walls is that kind of thing. So what we're doing after hearing what you had to say, we don't want to challenge you, but we try to make use of the property. The big obstacle that we could see right now, if we try to come closer to what you're asking for, are the 2 notches on the right side of the home. You could see that they're irregular, the back and the front. There's a ghost image, and that's what Sandy's going to come up and speak to you in a minute about. We've looked at ways to redesign this to maintain the walls, but we could see just sitting in the back of the room that we're going to get within 15 feet, or 12 feet, or 8 feet, or 9 feet of the true 50%, which would be, it's 180 feet is the linear dimension, so we need to keep 75. What's the linear dimension? I forget the linear dimension. It's 180, I think, is what we need to keep. It's 170, so we need to keep on each floor about 85 feet per floor. And we come very close to doing that in the redesign. But what I'm suggesting to your board, and we won't be able to do that, I would hope that if we do redesign it, that you would be able to, based upon some of the information I just presented to you, see a way to looking at this in a more lenient light, recognize that there's a family that's about to have young children, that's planning their whole future on this home, and whether or not the city council and their infinite wisdom decides to go along with the mayor or not is going to decide whether or not they go into their home a year or 2 or 3 years later. You have the power, you have the authority. We're clearly, I think, within the intent. We're not asking to ask you to build anything that's gigantic or bigger than anything else around it. And
I don't think
that's our attachment.
board. I don't think any of the board members had any concerns about the proposed FAR. It is well within what we have always considered as the maximum, because anything over 1 FAR in these zoning districts, it kind of triggers what you had indicated in your bulletin of that 110% factor. And And so that was one of the cap that was placed. That's the only where there's a parallel that we have drawn. And so it's the question of, so I think it is you have to, in your submission, you have to be able to give a reason why the board's position of holding 50% is not consistent with the intent of the text. Because ever since I've been on this board, as I've read all the various reports, City Planning Commission reports dating back from 1977, the memos that we received from then General Counsel David Karnofsky, and all of that very clearly indicated when 73-622 can be applied. I mean, taking it to one step, it could be, I mean, the way the 73-622 letters kind of all the question marks of when it can be applied started with somebody tearing a building down and saying, I'm just going to rebuild from the foundation. So where do you draw the line?
Of course.
Right? Where do you draw the line? So you have to be able to say, what was the intent of the special permit? The intent of the special permit, as when the legislators, the city planning and others recognizes that the homes from 1920s and 30s and 40s and pre-61 were really meant for a different family type, where you had one bathroom for everybody, you had shared kitchen dining, and it was a very different living existence and norm. And over time, that norm has changed, and there was a need for bigger space. And to allow for that, this text special permit was created. You know this very well. I'm preaching to the choir here.
And
but the intent was that you keep the existing building and add to it. Right? How do you add to an existing building when everything is being taken down?
But in this case, and I understand, we'll present to you, and maybe Sandy can come up and speak for a second, because really what we're coming down to now after we did our calculations in the back, if we convince the client to redesign, is we're a nominal amount.
So I think
we're closer than we are right now. So that's where I'm trying to take the conversation with you to see if that is within your realm of consideration, if we're not at the 50%. But to your point, and I'm glad you said it, and I'm sorry if I'm just, what is a substantial amount? Right? Would 46% be a substantial amount if you see the plan and you hear the applicant and you can deem their intent?
I also would like you to present situations like why you can retain that wall on the second floor.
Yes, that's what Sandy was about to speak to, and I didn't give you a chance to say.
I'd like you to submit something that shows that where you would argue that how the result of sticking to the policy would create an absurd result, and that these are specific facts that are unique, and why one would change a direction for this specific case on our policy. And I think you have some facts that support.
I was talking about that with your counsel earlier, and it's in our paperwork too. It's just the placement of the home, and we'll lay this out. And this relates getting to when the home was built in 1926, it was put in the middle of the property, right smack in the middle of the property. So that placement gives a huge disadvantage in coming for the special permit, whereas other homes, if they might be on a smaller lot, or they might have been, the builder might have put it on the one side because they wanted a ball field or something on the other side, they would have a much better application. And that's what Sandy is coming up with in front of. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And that outcome wouldn't be fair or legislatively intended or intended by a policy, is your argument.
Thank you for finishing my thought, Council.
Hello, Sandy Anagnostou. I think Mr. Palatnik spoke very eloquently and made some very good points. I just want to expand on that a bit. So this particular case is unique in that it's a 70-foot wide lot, and the existing building, which is nearly 100 years old, is right in the middle of it. So it's challenging trying to maintain that 50%. Additionally, there's some odd shapes odd notches and cutouts in the existing building footprint. So keeping those as well is a little bit of a challenge, and why it's really not functional. So we looked at this, we highlighted the area where in yellow where we could maintain 51%, but that would really change the design. So in looking at it further, we decided that we can maintain the wall, the exterior wall in the front, and then push back at the rear. And instead of providing a 30-foot rear yard, which is currently proposed, provide a 20-foot rear yard back there, and just basically move everything back. But we still have that challenge with if you look at on the diagram to the right, you can see the existing building footprint, those notches and that's, we're looking at that, but if there are ways that we could not have to retain all of those walls, it would just make for a much better design. And in terms of the FAR, we're very much within keeping with what's currently existing, and we are respectful of the board's precedent and history on other cases similar to this, but this lot does have some unique circumstance with the existing building.
Okay.
Also, yes. So if we were to do what I just described, we would need, in addition to the FAR waiver, we would need a waiver for the rear yard. But that's within the special permit. We would just get an updated denial. In terms of updating the elevations for showing Navid, we'll do that. We'll also update the plan set to include the notes for floodplain and revise the cellar plan to remove any uses as currently being proposed as only showing it for storage, crawl space within the enlarged area.
I also don't think a DOB will allow you to add a cellar space that unless it is only for storage purposes. If you're going to build that deep of a new cellar, I don't think DOB will let you use it for anything other than garage or storage. So you should reconsider it and maybe just not even extend that far out. That deep, just to save your clients. I'm not an expert on this, but it's like you're better off just having the existing building where you have, and the rest can be a crawl space at best.
Okay, it's a valid point. We'll consider all of that.
Okay. I seem to recall there was a case similar to this, where the building was also on a very large piece of a lot, and it was right smack in the middle of it. And any way you enlarged it, it.
I think it was Lyra's case.
Architect, who's the hand draw the drawings.
Reach out to Lyra.
No, it was, I think it's.
You know the case?
Based architect.
Elise remembers watching it, so we'll find it.
I don't.
It is Lyra case.
Is it your case?
No,
No,
Lyra.
no, it was not. No, I don't think it was it a Lyra's case? I think it was the architect who also was the.
Yeah, feel free.
comment.
Oh, there is that one too.
Oh.
Oh, we're thinking about a different case where
Can I be sworn in to say what?
Ms. Prenger, please swear in, Ms. Polidare.
Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do, thank you, Elise Fullader. I recall that case, but we also had a case at some point in time, I don't know if you remember, that was caught in between laws. They changed the flood compliance laws and we couldn't maintain, because the house was in the middle of construction, we couldn't maintain every floor 50%, but we did 50% of the
I
whole
know.
building.
That's also in
Because
this neighborhood.
it was also a very unique situation where the building was like
Right.
half done.
But this is different from in
Yeah,
terms of.
but
the
I'm
flood
saying we
plain.
had to look at that as a whole, like, I understand it's different, but just analogous in ways that we couldn't like look at it per floor because of the weirdness of the building. We looked at it as a whole.
So look at
Or
that
leeway
case.
on that, you're saying,
What?
showing that we'd have moved, we, on the subject of 50%.
Yeah,
But on a very site specific, and this was a corner lot, right?
That one was not a corner lot. It was
Or-
next to a corner lot with a variance that we did at the same time.
Ah, that one. I know what you're talking about. Okay, so look at that and the other one, and this was actually this gentleman, he retired from his practice. He's based in Staten Island. He's an architect and he used to come in as an applicant. He used to wear the safari outfit.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
He didn't.
He sits on committee board 2 or committee board 1. I know you.
In Staten Island.
Yes, yes, I forget his name, but I'll find. I know you.
He did hand drawings. I think it was one of his case. It was a building, a beautiful terracotta building that was a square building in the middle of a square lot. And the enlargement on that. I don't know, I don't recall outcome of it, but look at that
I know
also.
I have a picture of him in my head. His name is escaping me. We'll reach out to him.
Madam Chair, it's Carlo.
Yes,
I think there was another case also involving, I'm not sure if he was the applicant or just the architect. I believe it was Mealy Associates.
okay. Okay, yeah, that yours was a Joe Mealy case, yeah.
Dennis George, I think is who he's referring to.
I don't recall the gentleman's name. I can visualize him, but I can't recall. But point taken, but you have to make that argument. To
Madam
just.
Chair, I
Yep.
think you're referring to Mr. Dennis D. D'Angelo.
I think so.
I think it's Dennis. It is Dennis. It's his first name.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll reach out to him. I know Dennis.
So, but again, try to reach as close as possible to the 50% with
is-
that argument,
is what
but
we'll-
not a 27% with that argument.
Fair enough.
Okay, and the flood regulations, it is going to hurt you. So you better take care of it now
Jeez.
and manage the expectation of your client based on that.
Well, thank you.
The project manager has her hand raised.
Yes. Jeline, yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'd just like to request that you submit the plans that we were just looking at with the yellow highlighted FAR.
Yes,
We
good
certainly
call.
will. Thank you.
Yeah.
Zoe.
Yes. Okay, I think you'll need some time to make these corrections.
Yes.
Let's go to the public first before we start discussing the next steps.
Sorry, give me a moment. The application that we are discussing is calendar number 2023-63 BZ 4152 Ocean Avenue, Brooklyn. If you wish to provide public testimony on this application, you may join in via Zoom. The webinar ID is 861-4352-1529. The passcode is 494234. If you may also dial in 646-558-8656. You may enter the webinar ID just listed. You may press *9 to raise your hand and to *6 and *6 to unmute once you're in the waiting room.
If there's anybody. So far, I see no one's hand being raised. Okay, I think for this one, May, we have a hearing date in May.
Okay.
I think you need, because you need the revised objection sheet also. And quite a bit of revision needs to be done. You also need to look at the legislative other cases and history to make your arguments. I want you to be able to do
Thank you.
a good job of looking into it.
We will. Thank you very much for giving us.
But I also want to be clear, this is not something that this 50% overrule is not for every case. It is on a very individual, situational base.
We understand that, and if it's any consolation to you, I mean, what we've seen, and I'm sure your calendar is reflecting the same, is they're slowly waning away at all the special permits anyway. It's much less than there ever have been, and, you know, word is out, there's something brewing, so I don't know if you're gonna be confronted with it quite as much, but we don't have any intention of making a habit out of coming back with the 50% discussion.
Well, wish you all the best with the zoning
Thank you.
for housing opportunity.
Thank you very much. Wish the city the best. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank
Hold on, hold on.
Oh,
hold on.
schedule.
Want to make sure
We-
anybody, we are in public, but I think the clock hasn't run out, or has it run out?
It's not run out yet, but it's almost run out.
Okay.
I'll let
So
you know in a moment.
May, I think we have a hearing in May. Do we have two hearings or do we have only one hearing? So there is a May 6th, April 18th submission, and there is a May 20th, May 2nd submission. Should we say
May 6th?
You want to do May 6th?
Yeah.
Okay, the clock has run out.
Okay. May 6th. Okay, thank you.
For your time.
Good seeing you.
Enjoy the spring weather.
Yeah. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Sandy.
Have a good day.
Likewise.
The next application is item number 22, calendar number 2023-70BZ 215 through 24, 24th Avenue, Queens.
Okay, this would be I think this would be Lisa.
Yes, I do see her in the waiting room. I just promoted her to panelist.
Okay. Is
Hi,
Mr. Oh, there she is. Okay.
Is there any other member of your team?
No, it's just me.
Okay, great. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
Yes.
You may proceed. Please state your name for the record.
One second, we are just having a little bit of a technical difficulty. Let us fix it, then we will be able to hear you better. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Arantia. Thank you, General Counsel.
Hi, Lisa Orantia from Ackerman LLP on behalf of the applicant. I attended the review session and I've made the request from the project architect to provide the FDNY approved access plan.
And that, just make that part of the complete plan set of BSA. So both will be stamped and approved.
Okay, so we should attach it to the existing proposed conditions. Okay.
Yeah. So that way all the conditions associated with fire department will be incorporated into the plan set.
Got it. Okay.
Any questions or comments? Any additional changes? Okay. Counsel, you're okay with including those two things? Okay. Let's go to the public then.
Hold on a moment, sorry. If you wish to provide public testimony on this application, the application we are discussing is calendar number 2023-70 BZ. The address is 215-24 24th Avenue, Queens. You may join in via Zoom. The webinar ID is 861-4352-1529. The passcode is 494234. Or you may dial in. The telephone number is 646-558-8656. You may enter the webinar ID I just listed. You may press *9 once you're in the waiting room to raise your hand, and then press *6 to unmute to provide the testimony.
I just want to see if anybody's raising their hands. So far, I don't see. Ms. Arantia, how long will it take for you to correct the package, revise the packages?
I should have it within a week.
Okay. I don't think we had any issues, so I would like to make a recommendation to close it once the clock runs out. I think just to be on the safe side, given the schedule that we have for March, we have a lot of cases for March. I would recommend that we schedule this. Well, we also have a lot of cases but this is a close for April. If we can do this in March, we will let you know, but but April seems more likely.
Okay, I'll send it over as soon as we receive it from the architect.
Yeah, yeah.
We still have some seconds, so I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there are several people in the waiting room, but
I think that might be for the following cases.
yeah, there's one more case after this, so
Yeah,
the time has run out.
Okay. All right. I would like to make a motion to close.
Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
This application is closed.
Thank you, Mr. Arantia.
Thank you.
Submit the document as quickly as possible. If we can't schedule it for 25th, we'll try to. If not, April.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next case is a new case on the BZ calendar. Item number 23, calendar number 2023-72 BZ, 8615 257th Street, Queens.
From Sheldon Lobel's office.
Is there any other member of your team needed on this hearing?
The project architect should be there.
So there's a few people in the room. Dimitri Shankar,
Dimitri Shankar, yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. There's also Mohammed Chayum, I apologize, Robert Palermo, and Yidi Wu. Are those members of your teams?
Mohammed Quayam is the homeowner, and I think the other folks are.
So should we let Mohammed Kamu? Does he need to speak?
I think only if he wants to. I think that Mr. Shankar is the appropriate person to speak to some of the issues, particularly with regard to the DOB objection.
Okay, that's fine.
Please raise your right hand then. Everyone who will speak. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
Yes, I do.
I do.
Please state your name for the record. You may proceed.
Jed Weiss from Sheldon Lobel PC for the applicant. This is a special permit pursuant to 73-621 to modify only lot coverage and open space ratio. The FAR is compliant. We attended the executive session this morning. As the to recap, a revised objection sheet removing the reference to section 73-622 to 73-621, a revised statement of facts reflecting the 12-6-22 zoning text amendment with respect to 23-442, and provide the initial DOB approved plans that resulted in the audit, and finally to indicate the site on the Sanborn map, the historical Sanborn map. Is
Okay.
that
Yeah.
okay?
All right. Anything that Mr. Shankar you want to add?
We'll do everything.
Like
Everything is clear. We will do it.
All right. Okay, any questions for the team? All right, let's go to the public then.
Sorry, one sec. If you wish to provide public testimony on this application, the calendar number is 2023-72BZ. The address is 86-15 257th Street, Queens. You may dial in, you may join via Zoom. Our webinar ID is 861-4352-1529. The passcode is 494234. Or you may dial in via the telephone. Please dial 646-558-8656. You may enter the webinar ID that I listed. Please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute once you're in the waiting room.
Mr. Wise, how long will it take for you to update all this information?
I think two weeks, unless Mr. Shankar disagrees in terms of the timing to get the revised DOB objection. I mean, the other three items are easily available right away.
I agree.
Okay.
2 weeks probably should be enough.
Okay.
Okay. As I mentioned at the last, with the previous case, we have a pretty tight agenda for March. I think April is possible, definitely possible. March may not be, but we will confirm. But the submission, the problem is the submission date for March 25th. I think that was due already. Oh yeah, it's well past. So March 25th cannot happen. So it will be April.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, you have quite a bit of submissions to be made. So yeah, so it will be April.
So the submission date is March.
Submission date for April is March 28.
Okay.
But if you need for the DOB objection an extra week or so, let the project manager know.
We will, and thank you.
Okay, so the time has passed. There are two people in the waiting room besides our FDNY liaison. They have not raised their hand.
Yes, I think this is, if there's any particular case that you wanted to take part in, and we may have either heard it yesterday or we may have heard it earlier. And if you want to send any comments, you can send it to submit@nyc bsa.nyc.gov, and indicate the case number and the address. But if you are here to speak for this case, please raise your hand.
You can press *9 to raise your hand, but you should also be able to raise your hand at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom. Okay, it looks like they're not raising their hand.
Yep. Okay, so I then make a motion to close this case.
Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shabeta,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Sheta,
Aye.
Commissioner Yoon.
Aye.
Yeah, so only thing, the record we kept open for all the corrections to be made to the objection sheet, to the plan sheet, statement of facts, and the Sanborn map.
Correct. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
Thank you. Good to see you, Mr. Weiss.
Good to see you too.
Thank you, everyone. This concludes the public hearing for March 12th, 2024.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good day.